Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty mind-blowing. We're going to uncover how a simple everyday agricultural byproduct is, believe it or not, quietly revolutionizing high-tech global industries. We're exploring a market that, let's be honest, most people have probably never even heard of. Yet it's fundamentally changing how we manufacture everything, from stuff you use every day right up to advanced aerospace components.
So let's start with a little trivia. What does a cutting-edge electric vehicle battery actually have in common with a cashew nut? Now, if you're thinking, literally nothing at all, well, you're definitely not alone. But there's this hidden, totally unexpected link between everyday agricultural waste and the technologies of tomorrow. And that link? It's a highly specialized chemical compound that is absolutely taking the global manufacturing world by storm.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Before we look at all the incredible market data, we need to understand exactly what we're talking about here. The compound is called Cardanol. So Cardanol is a natural renewable phenolic compound. But here's the really fascinating part. It's derived directly from cashew nut shell liquid, or CNSL, using some seriously advanced distillation techniques. You see, historically, when cashews were processed for us to eat, the shells were basically just this massive, useless waste product. But through green chemistry, that waste is now extracted and refined into a highly valuable, sustainable alternative to petroleum-based compounds. And honestly, that's an absolute holy grail for manufacturers who are desperately trying to untether themselves from volatile oil markets.
All right, moving on to part one, the cashew shell secret.
1 million. Think about that for a second. That is the staggering tonnage of cashew nut shell liquid that India processes every single year. Because of its massive cashew processing industry, India captures an incredible amount of what used to be, well, a pure agricultural liability. Just garbage, really. But instead of being discarded, this massive waste stream is transformed into a highly lucrative, eco-friendly asset. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. This process is the ultimate example of a circular economy in action.
Next up, part 2, driving the green revolution.
There's a massive shift happening in the chemical industry right now. On one side, you have traditional petroleum-based synthetic phenols. These carry a really heavy carbon footprint and are totally chained to oil price volatility. On the other side, you have Cardanol. By substituting up to 25% of synthetic phenols with Cardanol, manufacturers aren't just doing the right thing for the planet. They're actually slashing their raw material costs by 5 to 10%. It's a total win-win, a significantly lower carbon footprint paired with way better economics. Plus, Cardanol actually offers superior material properties. We're talking improved flexibility and just outstanding water repellency. It's a real game changer.
Which brings us to part 3, India's market dominance.
The sheer scale of one country's footprint here is just fascinating. India is the undisputed world leader in the space, commanding a staggering 36% of the global Cardanol market share. To put that into perspective, India produces over 250,000 tons of Cardanol annually. That's a lot of cashew shells. Now, while countries like Vietnam and China hold significant shares at 31% and 17% respectively, India's abundant cashew plantations and deeply established processing infrastructure make it the absolute dominant powerhouse. And this is in a global market that was valued at nearly $36 million in 2024.
But what you might not expect is just how tightly controlled this supply actually is. The market is incredibly consolidated. In fact, just the top 3 major companies, led by giants like Cardanol Corporation, control over 63% of the entire global supply. The remaining 37%? That's shared among a bunch of smaller regional players. This deep concentration really highlights how critical established supply chains and specialized high-tech expertise are in this sector. You can't just, set up a plant overnight. You absolutely need access to the raw cashew shells and the advanced refining technology to play the game.
All right, let's look at part 4, high-tech's future trends.
Now this is where the story gets really exciting. The industry is shifting heavily toward double-distilled and high-purity specialty grades. Why? Well, because this sustainable chemical is now totally critical for extreme, high-performance applications. We're talking about new RX and HTX series materials developed to withstand insane temperatures, up to an incredible 500 degrees Celsius for aerospace and engine parts. No way, right? In the electric vehicle sector, Cardanol-based coatings are being piloted right now for battery encasements and heat shields because of their amazing thermal stability. It's also seeing surging demand for marine and anti-corrosive paints that comply with those super strict European environmental regulations. And thanks to research at institutes like IIT Kharagpur, it's even being unlocked as a monomer for bio-based flexible polyurethanes used in automotive seating.
To meet the exact down-to-the-wire specifications required by aerospace and electronics manufacturers, the production process itself is evolving. We're now seeing the integration of AI-driven analytics and automated reactors directly into the distillation process. This is huge, guys, because it solves a major historical challenge for smaller processing units: consistency in product quality. By utilizing AI and automation to guarantee high purity, the global Cardanol market is projected to surge at an impressive 11.2% annual growth rate, reaching over $60 million globally by 2032.
Of course, it isn't all smooth sailing. Let's cover Part 5, Navigating Market Challenges.
So the crucial point here is understanding the supply chain vulnerabilities. Because Cardanol is a byproduct of cashew nut processing, the entire market relies heavily on volatile agricultural yields. Basically, if it's a bad year for the cashew crop due to seasonal fluctuations, well, it's a tight year for Cardanol. Furthermore, the advanced double-distilled extraction processes require some very substantial capital investment. This creates high production costs when you compare it to cheap, well-established synthetic petrochemicals. Producers have to constantly prove that Cardanol's eco-friendly profile and its superior performance actually justify the upfront investment.
Which leads us right into Part 6, the lucrative export opportunity. Setting up a modern distillation unit in India definitely requires serious capital, but the economics? They are staggering. A smaller plant, processing 5 to 7 metric tons a day, requires a total capital investment of roughly 3.3 to 3.5 crore rupees. But check this out. If you scale up to a 30 metric ton per day facility, your investment caps out around 7.1 crore rupees. While that's a significant chunk of change up front, the profitability is astounding. The rate of return for these units generally ranges from 28% all the way up to 66%, and the break-even point is typically reached at just 30 to 60% of plant capacity. That is seriously impressive. Now, a massive driver of those high returns is the high-margin European export market, especially as Europe aggressively shifts towards circular, bio-based materials. But to tap into it, Indian exporters have to jump through a few hoops. Actually, they must follow 3 strict compliance steps to ship more than 1 ton per year. First, they have to complete REACH registration with the European Chemicals Agency. Second, they must adhere to strict CLP regulations for classification and labeling. And third, if the Indian manufacturer doesn't have a legal entity in the EU, they have to appoint an only representative, or OR, based in Europe to handle these regulations. It's a rigorous process for sure, but unlocking the European market is incredibly lucrative.
So we've seen how this incredible material is extracted from a simple cashew shell and transformed into a totally critical component for EV batteries, aerospace engineering, and green manufacturing. The Indian Cardanol industry is undergoing a monumental shift right now. It's evolving from a simple supplier of raw materials to a global leader in high-value, sustainable chemical solutions. And as global regulations increasingly mandate green chemistry, the demand for this remarkable compound is only going to accelerate. Which leaves us with one final provocative question to ponder. As the manufacturing world pivots to green alternatives, are you missing out on the bio-based revolution? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you never look at a cashew shell this same way again.